But speaking of like censoring, corruption, politicians, I wanted to kind of delve into what's going on with the Democrats attacking their own and then also other independent candidates like Green Party Cornel West, as well as RFK. But what are your thoughts about some of the attacks that have been going on? I know you did a couple of segments on this as well with Cornell and West, and just
and I'm having
of the media and stuff.
Mm-hmm. And I'm having Cornel West on to talk about it as well next week.
Oh, cool.
People can check that out, leecamp.com.
When is that? When is that next week? What day?
Wednesday of next week.
Wednesday. Okay, great. Okay.
But I mean, when you have a candidate as weak as Joe Biden, I mean, he was weak as a candidate when he was with it mentally, and he's now weak times 10 because he can't even speak clearly. So when you have a candidate as weak as Joe Biden, and you have to shut out all other ideas that there could be someone other than Joe Biden as the Democratic nominee. And so you of course they're going after, RFK Jr. at every turn that they can. The latest thing is they're trying the game plan they used against Jeremy Corbyn of anti-Semitism. That's their latest one they're using. And I have plenty of issues of things that with things that RFK Jr. stands for, but I feel he should be able to have a fair primary against Joe Biden, which would be how you would run a legitimate democracy, which we're not. And then there's Cornel West running as the Green Party candidate, or trying to get the Green Party candidacy. And Cornel West is amazing. He's done amazing things for so many years, and he's spoken so strongly about so many important things. Right. And yet they have him so rarely on mainstream media. It's pretty similar to Bernie Sanders. They have him so rarely on mainstream media. And when they do, they need to spend that time trying to pick apart and make him look like some sort of crazy-minded radical. And it's completely disgusting. There's never a positive discussion in any way. They want to call him a spoiler, as if you could spoil the Democratic Party that has put us into an infinite war state with endless environmental destruction, and you're going to spoil the gravy train for the richest and most corrupt in the world. You're going to spoil their easy win for the presidency. It's so disgusting, and it really reveals what the mainstream media is. And that clip you're showing there of Anderson Cooper with Cornel West was truly hysterical.
Let's listen to it.
Go ahead.
I want you to comment on it. Yeah. Hey, could you
absolutely. You criticized President Biden, saying recently that he contributed, in your words, I'm quoting, contributed to a crime against humanity when he became the architect of the mass incarceration regime in the 1990s. You're referring to the 1994 Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act that then Senator Biden sponsored. You also said it's, quote, very clear that his cognitive powers are in decline.
Well, I mean, one, I would have followed George Kennan. I would have abolished NATO right after the collapse of the Soviet Empire, and I would have tried to welcome Russia into the nation, the community of nations, rather than trying to push them against the wall. We know that their system of repression and domination is one in which they're going to feel as if their backs are against the wall. And I think you would probably agree that if Russia or China had missiles in Canada or Mexico targeting Washington, D.C., U.S. government would blow them to smithereens. That's how empires behave. You've read the history. I know the history. We're critical of imperial activity, no matter who it is, American, Russian, and what have you. But America's the most powerful empire in the world, in the history of the world, my brother. And it seems to me, if we can't dismantle that empire in order to empower poor and working people here and abroad, we're going to lose our democracy. It's almost like Rome, it was Cato the Younger and Cicero against Julius Caesar.
Right, but there's
what happens when your empire begins to take over your democratic possibilities? And I don't want World War III. I don't want World War III. The way that we're moving now, we got 3,000 advisors. Well, we heard that in Vietnam. We're on the way to possible nuclear exchange. How ugly. Here we got Trump pushing us toward the second civil war at home. You got Biden pushing us toward a third world war abroad. We need an alternative. That's what this campaign's probably about, my brother.
You criticize.
Well, we didn't get to the one part, but there was another part where they were comparing the bombing. I'm trying to remember the exact quote, but Lee, go ahead and take it from there. What are your comments about what he had to say there?
Yeah, well, you showed all the great moments for Cornel West speaking there, but yeah, what we didn't get to in those clips, which is fine, is Anderson Cooper trying desperately to try and shut down Cornel West, and his response in part of it is he says, "Oh, well, Russia bombed Grozny in Chechnya, right, and how horrific, and and even if you wanted to just say, okay, it was they just bombed random civilians, that was it. Even if you wanted to say that, then Cornel West says, well, what about Iraq? And Anderson Cooper just says, well, you cannot compare what was done in Grozny with Iraq. And it's like, no, you can't, because in one of them, a few hundred people died, and the other, 1 million people died.
1 million, yeah.
The Anderson Cooper just looks stunned that you could dare compare the invasion of Iraq with, and it just shows how disgusting these human beings are. But like, the Brown University cost of war study shows that 6 million people have been killed by the United States in our global war on terror, including Iraq. 1 million in Iraq and 5 million elsewhere. And that is above and beyond anything any other country has done.
Comprehension. It's beyond comprehension. Almost.
It really is. And to have Anderson Cooper, your mainstream media, sit there and act appalled that anyone would dare chastise the United States for invasion of Iraq. And of course, he can't call it invasion of Iraq. Anderson Cooper said, our actions in Iraq. And then he tried to defend it by saying, I was there, Anderson Cooper being a reporter in Iraq. And it's like, that's not a defense. That's an indictment. You were there manufacturing consent for that war.
Exactly. That shouldn't have been. But let's talk about Anderson Cooper. I mean, who is he, right? He's the son of a very, very wealthy old money family, right?
Yeah, he's a Vanderbilt and comes from crazy money. Also was an intern. I can't remember if it was 1 year or 2 years for the CIA. And
he's
in interviews,
and that's how all of them are. I mean, like at this point, on CNN and MSNBC, and I mean, Lee, you worked for RT, and when whenever anybody works for RT, they immediately say you're a spy for Russia, right? That's the Democrats' go-to. Right, there's their go-to, and Vladimir Putin must have a huge payroll because simply everyone who speaks against Democrats is on his payroll, I guess.
Oh yeah, they tried to accuse Bernie, Jill Stein, Tulsi Gabbard.
RFK Jr. They just came out with a headline this morning. It says, "Why Russia loves RFK." Yeah, and that's someone wrote the lip below it. Like, I can't fucking believe they're doing that again.
they love that garbage, and during my time there, so I was there for 8 years. I did a weekly show called Redacted Tonight, and I was never censored. I was never told what to say. I was never told I had to say anything. The reason I was there is because something like that had really never existed on American television and probably will never exist again, where I was able to be full-throatedly anti-war, anti-capitalism, anti-environmental destruction, pro-justice, and never have to worry about being censored out of saying any of those things. And I knew that it would. I knew that it was rare. I knew it wouldn't happen again, and I didn't know it would end when it did. But I kind of figured that at some point the U.S. empire, which is rather fragile, can't handle. And I don't just mean me, but I mean everyone on that network can't handle people speaking the truth like that. It's so easy to unravel propaganda because it is so insane. It is so ridiculous that unraveling it just takes a few minutes, but now they're trying to make sure people like me and you are as suppressed and censored as possible.